F1 threatens to break away from the FIA, main reason why Red Bull lost so much pace since Miami has been revealed, and Lewis Hamilton is targeting 2026 for his next championship. Do consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get into the latest F1 news. One of the biggest unknowns about the 2024 Formula One season is how Red Bull went from crushing the opposition up to the Chinese GP to being on the back foot since Miami. Max Verstappen's victory in Shanghai, his 4th out of 5 races at the start of this season, came with nearly identical 13-second margins at the front in that weekend's sprint and main Grand Prix. The world champion had been pretty much unchallenged up to that point and would likely have won Australia were it not for his brake problem, and there had been little indication from outside that the RB20 was anything but well clear of the opposition. But just 2 weeks later, as F1 returned to action in Miami, Red Bull's problems suddenly manifested themselves as Verstappen found himself not entirely comfortable with the balance of his car. It was this which triggered the incident at the chicane where he ran over the cone, and that ultimately set in motion the events that handed the race to McLaren's Lando Norris, whose team had been boosted by the arrival of a major update. From that moment on, the story of the 2024 season changed. While Red Bull did win again in Imola, Barcelona and Montreal, it never really returned to the level of dominance that it showed before the Hard Rock weekend. McLaren's major car revamp for that event certainly explains a lot about its own step forward, but that others were also all suddenly able to threaten Red Bull, having not been able to do so beforehand, is harder to understand. It was not just that McLaren improved, others did too, and it seems that Red Bull went backwards and has not recovered since. Speaking to Motorsport about the situation, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said there was no clear answer from his squad about why things were so different from that weekend. If you were skeptic, you'd say something's changed because we went from winning races as a canter, he said. I was getting grief from Stefano Domenicali every weekend that the TV figures are dwindling because we're set for another year of Max Verstappen and Red Bull dominance. There was a lot of pressure coming, saying stop winning races by 20 seconds. If one was a skeptic and somewhat paranoid, you say something's changed. Because even when we've gone back to the configuration of the car that, for example, we had in China, we still have some of the same issues that we have experienced. But in saying that, it changed for everybody potentially. But I've never in a season seen a swing so exaggerated. Obviously, we have to get on top of that. We have to understand it. Questions over that weekend are not new, and various theories have popped up to try to explain it, but nothing has hit the bullseye yet. There does not appear to have been a FIA technical directive that came into play that could have influenced the competitive order. Indeed, wild conspiracy theories that Red Bull's drop in form was because it had had to remove an illegal asymmetrical braking system have long been discounted by the governing body, and rival teams do not think there was anything like that going on. Red Bull itself says there is no obvious explanation about it having done something to its car. Chief Technical Officer Adrian Newey was still with the squad at that point, and the RB20 did not feature any new upgrades in Miami that could have delivered some undesirable side effects. There have been suggestions that the change in form could have been triggered by some minor tweak to the tires, but on this front too, there does not appear to be any smoking gun either. If we wanted to come up with an ultimate conspiracy, then we could imagine that one way would be for a secret tire construction change to have happened in Miami, perhaps offering a stronger front end for teams that were struggling with the perennial problem of low speed understeer with these current generation of cars. Making a tweak like this would mean that previously well-balanced cars, like the RB20, would then have too much on the front, which would explain the change in balance characteristics to make the rear more on edge. The only problem with such a theory about a new construction tire is that it would be against the regulations. Article 10.8.3 of F1's technical regulations states that the construction specification of tires has to be determined no later than 1st September prior to the championship, with compounds sorted by 15th December. It adds, once determined in this way, the specification of the tires will not be changed without the agreement of the Formula One Commission. Notwithstanding the above, the FIA may decide to change the specification during the championship season for safety reasons without notice or delay. The latter clause could have opened up a way for an immediate change to have taken place without any prior warning, but there were no safety grounds that required such a move, and any shift would likely have been made public. Pirelli too has laughed off the idea that there could be a way to change construction without anyone knowing. It is therefore a conspiracy too far. With a construction change therefore not feasible, there has been some attention given to potential tire pressure increases having had an impact in swinging the picture up and down the grid. One suggestion is that Red Bull's advantage appears to fall away whenever the minimum pressures are raised to account for extra loading, especially at high-speed circuits. But again, there is no clear stat that stands out on this front and points to a step change that took place from Miami based on the table below. Pirelli's head of F1 and car racing, Mario Isola, says his company is always trying to minimize the occasions it has to lift the pressures, but it is equally always fighting against increased performance from the cars. Every year when we homologate a new construction, the target is to have a new construction with new materials and new concepts inside in order to have a stronger tire, he said. It doesn't mean heavier, but a stronger tire using the same pressure. So we try to keep the pressure as low as possible because obviously you optimize the footprint of the tire with a lower tire pressure. But every year teams increase the performance while we have homologated the tire. Maybe we start the season with a lower pressure, but then during the season we have to react to the improving performance with the tire pressure. Asked if there was a chance that small changes to the pressures at various races could impact various cars in different ways, he said it depends on how you design the car. The design of the car is important, and the mechanical design and the aero package of each car is affecting tire behavior in a slightly different way. That's why when we homologate a new construction, we send to the teams a lot of data. There is a list of data in the technical directive that is provided by the FIA. That is a huge amount of information that they need to design the car for the following year. While there remains no obvious answer as to what happened to Red Bull from Miami, it could be that the truth comes out later in the season as the squad unlocks answers as to the sensitivities of its RB20. At Miami, the only tweak that Red Bull made to its car was the removal of a support for its floor edge wing that it hoped would save weight. But maybe, as it digs deep into the data of its car and what was coming out of his wind tunnel and simulations, perhaps something else will have emerged that explains what really happened. This likelihood seems to be increasing as the team digs deeper into the characteristics of its car, and fresh events give it opportunities to understand where weaknesses have come from. As Horner explained, I think there's some inadequacies in some of the tools that we had, and as we started to push the aerodynamics of these regulations, the correlation between track and car, we've lost that correlation. I think it wasn't really until the downforce came off the car at Monza that it really highlighted where the issues were coming from. Christian Horner has said he'd love to have seen Daniel Ricciardo complete his story after securing an F1 return in 2023. Having parted ways with McLaren after 2022, Ricciardo's career looked in danger of being over until Red Bull took a chance on him by signing him as a reserve driver for 2023 and eventually giving him a seat at AlphaTauri to replace the struggling Nyck de Vries. All the pieces seem to be aligning for Ricciardo to return to the seat he vacated at the end of 2018 and slot back in beside Max Verstappen at the lead Red Bull team. But first, Ricciardo needed to show a clean pair of heels to teammate Yuki Tsunoda, a useful barometer to see whether Ricciardo had rediscovered the speed and form that had abandoned him while at McLaren. Horner, who previously revealed that Ricciardo was unrecognizable from the driver who left Red Bull in 2018 when he returned to the fold, said the fairy tale ending would have been for Ricciardo to eventually get back to the form to justify slotting him in instead of Sergio Perez. But even with Perez struggling for form for most of this year, Red Bull kept the faith with the Mexican, a decision made much easier by Ricciardo's own sporadic performances. As he didn't represent a clear step forward on Perez, Ricciardo thus became in danger of losing his seat as Liam Lawson became a viable and promising option, a scenario that has now played out for the remainder of F1 2024. Yeah, I would have loved to see him use it as a leap, as a springboard to get back to where he was, to have completed the story Horner told the F1 Nation podcast. But it wasn't to be, you know. Daniel's honest about that, and he knows in his heart he gave it his best shot, and he's had a great career. He's had a great run. But unfortunately, the next chapter wasn't to be, he's so good in front of the camera. He's a natural entertainer and showman. He will be, for sure, in front of the camera at some point, and I'm sure there'll be a documentary or something that will be fascinating. While Horner was honest in revealing that Ricciardo's form wasn't enough to get him back into the top team. The Australian will also be remembered for the qualities of his personality, which he also used to influence Max Verstappen into being a more relaxed figure during his formative years in the sport. He loved what he was doing, and he felt very honored to be a Grand Prix race driver, and just some of the silly stuff that he'd get up to. Horner said, "He's a good singer, he's a good musician, and he's never shy to have a go." I think actually Max learned a huge amount from him, because when Max came into the team, Max was very much the young pup, and I think he was a great influence on Max in learning not to take life too seriously and enjoy the moment. Juan Pablo Montoya has expressed his belief that Lewis Hamilton is preparing to embark on a serious title challenge with Ferrari. However, for this success to be realized, Montoya emphasizes that Ferrari needs to create a car that is specifically designed to meet the needs and preferences of the seven-time world champion. Since joining Mercedes in 2013, Hamilton has enjoyed remarkable and record-breaking success with the team, having won 6 out of his 7 world championships. As he looks ahead to the 2024 Formula One season, the British driver has just 6 race weekends left as a Mercedes driver before he officially makes his highly anticipated switch to Ferrari. This significant move was announced ahead of the approaching 2024 campaign, and Hamilton is eager to re-establish himself in the competition for the title as he strives to secure an unprecedented 8th championship. Montoya believes that Hamilton has what it takes to become a strong contender for the championship at Ferrari. He stated his thoughts clearly when he predicted to Gambling Zone that we will see the return of the competitive Lewis Hamilton that fans and followers have come to admire. Montoya remarked that Hamilton will be motivated by a desire to prove his critics wrong and to showcase his exceptional driving skills to everyone who has doubted him. He firmly believes that if everything comes together as intended, Hamilton could pose a significant threat to winning the championship. Ferrari has been waiting for a long time to taste victory in the championship, not having won a title since they secured the Constructors' Championship in 2008. The last time they had a Drivers' Champion was in 2007, when Kimi Raikkonen took the crown. If they wish to end this lengthy drought with Hamilton at the wheel, Montoya stressed that it is essential for Hamilton to play a key role in guiding the development of the car. As Hamilton prepares to join Ferrari, he will be joining Charles Leclerc as his teammate. Leclerc is a product of the Ferrari Driver Academy and has been part of the Scuderia team since 2019. Montoya emphasized the importance of collaboration between Ferrari and Hamilton, indicating that if Ferrari truly wants to achieve success, they must pay close attention to Hamilton's feedback and adapt the car to accommodate his driving style and preferences. Leclerc himself is optimistic about the future of Ferrari and has shared his thoughts on the possibility of a title challenge in 2025. He expressed his belief that with the right developments, Ferrari could make significant progress, especially with the new chassis and power unit regulations set to come into play in 2026 and beyond. When asked if it is realistic for Ferrari to aim for the championship in 2025, Leclerc confidently asserted that it is indeed possible and that they are working continuously to improve. Leclerc said that the ongoing development is an ever-evolving process, and he is confident that the 2025 season will bring positive results, followed by even greater improvements in 2026 and 2027 as they continue to optimize their performance. He noted that while there may be fluctuations in performance, it is essential to recognize that no team typically gets worse from one season to the next. The key factor is understanding how much progress other teams make in comparison. He mentioned that he has no doubt that Ferrari will take a step forward next year and continue to build on that progress in the coming seasons. In a significant lineup change, Hamilton is set to replace Carlos Sainz at Ferrari, who has since reached an agreement for a multi-year contract with Williams. Meanwhile, it appears that Charles Leclerc and the Ferrari team have recognized the importance of prioritizing race performance over qualifying results. The 2023 Singapore Grand Prix serves as a notable example of this shift, as Leclerc faced a disappointing outcome during the race, which really stung emotionally for him. Despite the overall dominance of Red Bull throughout the 2023 Formula One season, Ferrari managed to achieve a remarkable feat by handing Red Bull its only defeat of the season at the Singapore Grand Prix, where Carlos Sainz emerged victorious. This particular victory was highlighted as a key moment that significantly impacted Leclerc. Insights regarding this development came from Leclerc's driver coach, Jock Clear, who, during an appearance on the F1 Nation podcast, discussed what many considered to be one of Leclerc's strongest seasons to date. Leclerc not only secured wins at prestigious races in Monaco and Monza, but also stood on the podium 9 times throughout the season. Although Leclerc has garnered a reputation as a specialist capable of excelling in one-lap qualifying sessions, Clear countered this notion by arguing that the label is misleading and not entirely fair. He elaborated on how both Leclerc and the Ferrari team have shifted their focus toward improving their race performance over time. Clear noted that Leclerc's results this year demonstrate a successful evolution in both car development and driver skills. He emphasized that while qualifying is important, the true challenge lies in performing well on race day, where points are accumulated. This shift in focus has been crucial. Clear reminisced about excellent performances from Leclerc in the past, such as his victory in the 2022 Austrian Grand Prix, where he demonstrated his ability to manage tire degradation effectively while competing against Max Verstappen, who struggled significantly in that race. Clear acknowledged that Charles has always had the talent, but indicated that the team needed to place greater emphasis on tire management and race strategy overall. In conclusion, he expressed his confidence that this season has seen notable improvements in Ferrari's race car performance, and both the team and Leclerc himself have learned valuable lessons. They have honed their skills in tire management and race execution, which have propelled them further along the path toward competitive success. Faced with the significant threat of a potential breakaway series just last year, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, the president of the FIA, firmly states that any discussions about this possibility are nothing more than nonsense, asserting that such a scenario simply will not happen. During the previous season, the FIA, under Ben Sulayem's leadership, experienced significant conflicts with various parties involved in Formula One, including the team's Formula One management and the sport's promoters, Liberty Media. The disagreements spanned a wide range of issues, from discussions about the addition of Andretti as the 12th team in F1, to the FIA's unilateral decision to release the racing calendar without consulting F1, and allegations surrounding the exposure of confidential information. The level of tension between the FIA and F1 had escalated to such an extent that, in December of last year, the BBC reported that several sources believed Ben Sulayem's actions were harming the sport. The report indicated that Liberty Media was even contemplating the idea of parting ways with the governing body if the president's controversial actions continued. The situation was exacerbated by reports suggesting that Ben Sulayem wanted a larger portion of F1's financial income to support the FIA in the next Concord Agreement, a demand that stirred further unease. However, as time has passed, it appears that a truce has emerged between F1 and the FIA. In a conversation with Motorsport.com, Ben Sulayem stated that FOM now understands the role of the FIA, indicating a shift in dynamics. I honestly do not know what the problem was before, he added during the discussion. I'm genuinely asking you, can you clarify what the issues were over the last 2.5 years? What exactly did I do that was wrong? He further questioned the reasoning behind his requests for better deals for the FIA, saying, if I'm seeking a better deal for the FIA, who exactly am I supposed to approach? Should I be expected to fund this myself? I do not receive a single penny from the FIA. So what is the actual problem if I advocate for improved equipment and additional resources to enhance our sport? When the topic of a breakaway series surfaced again, a threat that recurs every few years, Ben Sulayem decisively dismissed such notions. He emphasized that he has no intention of threatening Liberty Media by trying to reclaim the rights to Formula One. All that chatter about a spin-off series. Let's be serious for a moment. Can we act with a bit more maturity? That situation is not going to occur, Ben Sulayem insisted. The FIA now recognizes that we do not need to disrupt this ship any further. Even though we may have our differences, I have no intentions of crossing the line by claiming that I want the commercial rights to be reverted back. I truly do not want that. Nevertheless, he pointed out that there are essential aspects that people need to grasp. What we require is a situation where we are two equals, he stated. Formula One ultimately belongs to the FIA. We rent out the rights and lease them to another party. Both sides understand and respect that arrangement at this point. He reiterated his previous stance, saying, if you were to ask me now who I would choose as a promoter for this sport, if I had the power to decide, I would definitely choose Liberty Media. They truly understand how to effectively market this sport. Despite his praise for Liberty Media, he also emphasized the importance of strengthening the FIA. We are currently undergoing a repositioning and reform of the FIA to achieve that. However, for this to be effective, we also need the commercial side to comprehend and respect our position because we hold responsibility for the rules and ensuring compliance with them. Recently, those rules have included a crackdown on foul language, resulting in the FIA imposing a day of community service on Max Verstappen after he cursed during a press conference. This decision sparked widespread criticism, with Gunther Steiner suggesting that Ben Sulayem could have managed the situation in a better manner. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.